Good evening, Professor Valentine. Today I will be discussing the Week 8 Assignment 2, the nonprofit funding. And without further ado, here we go. So, nonprofit funding is basically funding that is raised through donations. They therefore don't hold any securities or public assets, like they don't have any stocks. There are certain cases where they do, and some are qualified, but not, like 99.9% do not. So, and they wouldn't be considered true nonprofits. But basically, there's a couple steps to it to being a nonprofit. You start with your case statement, then you go towards your targeting market, then you go to your annual funds appeals and benefits. You'll go through the foundation and grants process, and basically once you go through all those steps and you figure out all those steps and what entails in it. Like for right now, I'm writing a case statement for an organization in my other class. And it's just going down the list of, the ethical backgrounds, the ethical philosophies, things like that. So you kind of get into details of each of those things, and that's basically the process of becoming a nonprofit and gaining nonprofit funding. But enough on that. So the 8 major sources would be your individual donors, then you'll have your foundations, and then you'll have your bequests. And that is according to the article that I linked below. But you also have your corporate giving, your government grants, plus financial aid, your earned income, your federal funds, and your fiscal sponsors / venture capitals. And so the 3 biggest sources were the first 2 that I stated, which is the individual donors, which are 3/4 of all donations. The benefit of this is that you can build a quick network through relations and gain more donations, as it's more personal. The limitations is some restrictions, specifically with political donations. They're limited to like 10,000, depending on where you're at, like $10,000 per year. So that's a limitation and a benefit. Then you will move on to the foundations, which you can have private and public foundations. The limitations on these is you will not always get a donation fully tax deductible. I think the range is like 30 to 60% for private companies. So yeah, it's a big limitation. So you won't be getting that written off. But there's 3 different kinds of foundations. You have your family, your corporate, and your community foundations. And then lastly, you have your bequests, which are basically planned donations left in the name of a nonprofit as part of a will. And that is according to the 8 sources of funds for nonprofits, the article that I found. Also linked down below. So like I said, these donations tend to be larger, and therefore they take more time to establish a connection and commitment. And so, yeah, the benefits are they are voidable, but a limitation is that they cannot become charitable tax deducted. So it's kind of like a, pendulum swing, I guess. And then really quickly, just some real world examples. For your individual donations, you have your volunteers, your penny drive donators, things like that. And then for your foundations, you can have Fidelity Charitable, which is an organization. That would be a real world example of that. And if you're bequests, you have people like Stephen Ross donating bequest of $1 million to the University of Michigan to fund their programs and build up their facilities. And I know this all too well because I'm a Dolphins fan. So yeah, thank you very much.